I now call the Thursday, March 31st Board of Commissioners work session to order. First, we have Alicia Searcy, our Finance Director, to give us a financial recap from February 2022. And I remind everybody to please silence their telephones. I hear an echo, Joel.
Okay, there we go. I was trying to get that adjusted. Good afternoon, Commissioners. We've got the financial reports for February here in front of us, and we've to date got revenue of $54,608,243, which is 92% of our budgeted revenue. Compares to last February where we were at about 90% of our budgeted revenue. On our expense side, we've incurred $37,123,000 in budgeted expenses. That's at 62.81% of our budget, and we're at 67% of the way through the year. We're running behind budget. A big part of that's due to labor cost. We have a lot of open positions, and I know we've made some pay adjustments through the last few months. Hopefully we're going to be able to fill those positions. We have seen a significant increase in fuel, as all of us have. We're also seeing an increase in parts and office supplies due to fuel. So if we go back to our financial balances, our fund balance at the end of February was $49,612,000 compared to last year at $34,489,000, and our general fund cash is at $47,623,000. We are right in the middle of upgrading our Munis system. The Finance Department will be completed with the testing on that today, and so we'll hopefully be prepared to migrate to that new version of Munis in the first part of May. So hopefully everything's going to go well, and we'll have our financial statements as planned by next month. Any questions on the financials?
Ms. Searcy, everything looks good. While we're doing very well with revenues and doing well with expenditures, we're also going to have some budget amendments that will close the gap some on things that we need to be able to pay for, and as you stated, a lot of things that are going up in pricing. So while it's a good place to be, I also want to make the comment we're not going to have a huge gap, and that expense is going to catch up with the revenues in certain areas.
It will.
Thank you. We're now going to call Brian Kent, our county engineer, with a presentation on MS4.
I can click through that. Where am I pointing at? Madam Chair, Commissioners, thanks for having me. This is just a brief overview of the MS4. I'll go into a great detail of it. There's 36 slides. I'm going to probably click through a little bit, some of these faster than others. We can talk about the MS4 program. That's the goal of this discussion, is to educate, public education for the elected officials. So we're going to go through and present the MS4 program. By all means, stop and ask me questions as you come to them. This is a open discussion for education purposes, just for your knowledge. So, is it on? Or you can hit slide or whatever you want to do. Again, the purpose of the program is to discuss the MS4 program. The permit is a 5-year permit. This is a municipal stormwater discharge permit. There are construction stormwater discharge permits. This is the municipal stormwater discharge permit. I say that to emphasize the jurisdiction in the realm of it being worked on. They expect a reissue of this permit again in June of 2022. So they are working this reissue, which means to us, which we will have to redo our stormwater management plan to comply with the next 5 years of the permit. That map before you is the urbanized area for Carroll County. So again, this is not the entirety of Carroll County. This is the urbanized area. I'll go into a little detail of what an urbanized area is as defined by EPD and the EPA, the federal agencies. But this is the urbanized area. What you see is the yellow, the urbanized permitted area for the MS4, with the red dots being the outfalls that we map and track and report on. The blue areas are the groundwater recharge areas, depending on the soils, which mean that they are greater to allow water infiltration to recharge the underground aquifer. Those are the signs you see out. We are required to label our MS4 outfalls. So sometimes in your districts up in the northern area, you'll see those signs out, and that's what that means. We've identified those as the outfalls for the MS4. This is the permit talked about. It's coming due to be reissued, and it'll be starting that process June 2022 with the state, and we'll be given notification. Stormwater, MS4, you'll see the blue water, that is the municipal separate storm sewer system. You'll see a sewer system, municipal separate storm sewer for stormwater. So we're detailing the stormwater runoff, and that's what this program is for, the runoff stormwater. That's what we've mapped, any right-of-way crossing the state waters or any perennial streams or any streams for that matter. That is what we identified as the right-of-way outfalls that discharge directly to our streams. This program. Stormwater, any kind of snow melt, precipitation, firefighting is exempt, so sometimes you'll see that's a concern when we're fighting fires. Firefighting runoff is an exempt practice. However, I will emphasize sometimes we utilize the washing of roads with fire equipment with other, that is technically a violation, and any kind of washing off of roads, those should be brushed off, swept off, but this details where we are. We have 22 outfalls in our MS4 area. I've highlighted that the Little Tallapoosa River headwaters to Sharp Creek is an impaired stream. It's an impaired stream due to macroinvertebrates and fish, due to non-point discharge and a combination of urban runoff. So those are areas that we are identified that we are required to add additional controls on any kind of development in those areas, up to 4 BMPs on development, and anytime they're on an impaired stream such as the Little Tallapoosa River in our urbanized area. A point source is pretty much as you think of it. If I can go and point to a culvert, point to it, that's where the discharge is, point source. Non-point source is anything that's open field. Much of our agricultural activity in Carroll County is a non-point source runoff, so it's not regulated. So again, that's the point. When you hear point source and non-point source, we're talking about a regulated activity versus a non-regulated activity. Plain and simple, I'm going to say this probably multiple times, this is a water quality program. It's designed to increase water quality, improve water quality over the course of our permit, and we will continue to operate as such with that in mind. Some of those you see in front of you are some of the issues. Maintenance, litter are always going to be the bulk of what our water quality is going to be hampered by. This is actually in Carroll County. This picture, it's a development in a neighboring municipality that is causing runoff onto a county property, and there's ongoing work to fix this problem. This is just other pictures. Again, stormwater runoff and what's important, why it's important to make sure it's properly planned for and make sure it's properly contained. Illicit discharges, there are a number of illicit discharges we can deal with. They can range anywhere from failing septic systems to what we come in, get some of the complaints are people are changing oils on the side of the road, dumping oil, not properly taking the oil in to get properly disposed of. Something as simple as burning leaves. The grandmother burning leaves. I've been burning leaves for years. Sometimes when you're burning close to an outfall and you burn and all that debris washes off into an outfall into our water, that can be construed as an illicit discharge. The pollutants we've already kind of hit. The toxic chemicals, the chlorides, the thermal impacts. Once you have a bacteria outbreak in water, especially this time of year, you'll see some of the algae blooms due to the temperature rise. Some of that will clog out the growth of the necessary plants in the water to produce oxygen for the fish and such as that. So it's a total in 236 stream miles in Carroll County. I'm going to pass this up, and what's more important, in our permitted area, Carroll County has 45 miles of streams. We have 118 miles of county right-of-way and 22 outfalls. So that's what our annual report centers around, is those 45 miles of streams, 118 miles of county right-of-way, and 22 outfalls. So that's what's more important for the county. We continue to do what is being done, what's causing damage. We've got a stormwater management plan that identifies the minimum control measures that I will talk about in a little while, and those minimum control measures with best management practices are how we support those minimum control measures, and that's where we work toward our progress on our goals. The urbanized area. I told you I'd talk about the urbanized area. This is based on U.S. Census data. The most recent census data was in 2010. An urbanized area is an area with a population greater than 10,000 and a density of 1,000 people per square mile. So that's what went into that, making our urbanized area, that map that I showed you earlier. We get that from the federal government, and it's displayed out to us, and we will move forward. There is a 2020 census, and so I would suspect with the permit being reissued, I would suspect Carroll County would see an expansion of our urbanized area. There has been talk in the past that it would probably be a little bit more into the Fairfield Plantation area along the 166 corridor heading out toward Douglasville, but that's just speculation at this point. But just understand that with the reissuance of a permit, our urbanized area, I would expect it to expand and us have more outfalls and more streams to monitor. Our goal is to work toward reducing pollutants to the maximum extent practicable. That's the term in our stormwater management plan. So we will track an annual progress toward goals. That is what our annual report does. And I'll get a little bit more into what is on our annual report. This is probably one of the more important bits of information and really the bulk of the stormwater management plan and what Carroll County does. What you see in the stormwater management plan before you, there's 6 minimum control measures. Each of those 6 minimum control measures have best management practices that help us work toward our goals of those minimum control measures. For instance, we have partners. Most of your counterparts you will talk to in other municipalities, you may talk about watershed departments and what your watershed departments are doing. For all intents and purposes, you're looking at Carroll County's watershed department. This is done with the help of other departments. For instance, our Natural Resource Conservation Service, that contribute toward 2 minimum control measures and 2 BMPs. The Ag Extension Office contributes toward 2 minimum control measures and 2 BMPs. Keep Carroll Beautiful contributes toward 2 minimum control measures and 4 BMPs. And the Department of Health contributes toward 1 minimum control measure and 2 BMPs to help us maintain our water quality in Carroll County. Real quick, go through minimum control measures. Public education outreach. The Ag Center and NRCS maintain materials that hand out for public education. They do a very good job with their inventory listing that's outside their offices, and they maintain our library of information for water quality. Public involvement, Keep Carroll Beautiful does the heavy lift with a lot of their community outreach programs. So they do a very good job, and we kind of very well lean into them when they do these community outreach. It's been very difficult to meet this public involvement, public participation with current events these past couple of years, but we've been able to make it work, and it's been going. So big help to Keep Carroll Beautiful to continue what they're doing. Illicit Discharge, that's really community development and the health department working on maintaining programs and working on the legal aspect of illicit discharges, that failing septic systems or any kind of construction runoff. We have community development again as the big lift on the construction site. This incorporates a lot of what our local issuing authority, our erosion control. I mentioned the general permits for construction. There's 3 of those for common development, infrastructure, and standalone. Although they are separate NPDES permits, the stormwater runoff program marries together very well, and we use a lot of what we do for erosion and sediment control in the urbanized area. Again, community development's post-construction. We do a lot of the follow-up until a notice of termination is completed on a project, so we continue to maintain our situation awareness for those. The pollution prevention, community development, public works, solid waste, that's where we essentially are getting rid of the litter. We are, the litter that's on the side of the road, we're required to report how much has been removed, how much and where it's going, and we do a good job, I think, of reporting and keeping track of all of our different ways to make sure we're keeping litter off the right-of-way and out of our waterways that can wash into the outfalls. That's really kind of it. The rest of it's kind of obvious stuff. What's the benefit of water quality? We all want to continue to enjoy our streams, lakes, rivers. I'm really kind of here for you. So just know that there is a MS4 program. Just know that there are many entities around our community that are participating in this, and I ask for you to continue supporting some of those entities that allow us to.
I guess overall question, so with all of this, this isn't the first time we've had a stormwater control program. It's been ongoing for some time, is that right, Brian?
It's been going, we've been since 2014,
yeah.
But the reason I come to you is those minimum control measures I just talked about. This is a BMP for the minimum control measure. So we're actually completing a BMP in our minimum control measure by me standing here talking to you right now.
Yeah. Just as a matter of interest, with any program, any government operation, I'm just kind of interested in, I mean, we have all of these things going on with this program and reports going hither, thither, and yon, as the saying is. What though is do we have any overall sense of where we're at? In other words, what's the benchmark? Are we at a 92 or a 46 or I mean, how are we doing overall in this area?
We're complete. There is no grade. We don't receive an annual grade. Mildred Granderson is our point of contact with the state, and that's who receives our annual report. That report is due every year, February 15th. It's been submitted. She will usually come back to us and say, provide some amplifying data. I did not hear anything from her last year. I did not hear anything from her so far this year. So there is no grade. The only thing that we kind of do that's not in here, but we do it, is we do go around and do water samples on streams for turbidity. So we do track a little bit, but there's really no goal, but there is no assessment of are we improving. How we could improve, and I've reached out to people, and a tie into this is probably to answer your question a little more deeper. There's a program called Adopt a Stream, and I've reached out and tried to start a program, Adopt a Stream, because the importance of Adopt a Stream is, you remember where I showed you at the beginning of it, the Little Tallapoosa River is a non-supporting stream. Well, we can take action on trying to get that. The goal would be to get some of these non-supporting streams off the non-supporting list and back on the supported list. But to do that, we've got to actually go out and take samples and start working and making reports to EPD. We're not doing that yet. I've reached out to try to, I don't want to throw any other entity under the bus, but I've reached out to other departments, other entities I would support it. I'm willing to be your lead on it, but I need people to do it. So this would be a great public education outreach. This would be a great volunteer program to do monthly samples to really work toward that. So I've made efforts to try to start an Adopt a Stream program here locally, and that would be a measurable goal that would really be what you're asking. Can we get some streams off the non-supporting list? That would be what we should really be working toward, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And this is a mandatory state program, right?
It's a federal program.
Federal program?
It's a federal,
Okay.
it's much like our erosion control program. This is an EPA program that came to the state. State has panned it off. Once a municipality hits that urbanized area threshold, that's where they are becoming an MS4, a municipal separate storm sewer system. That's what MS4 means. So,
Does it go to the state EPD at all, or?
our report?
Yeah.
That's who our
Okay.
annual report
So the
goes
state
to.
kind of monitors what the feds require.
That's
kind of
really,
thing.
that's the ping, that's the email you'll get. It may either come
Yeah.
to the chairman or whoever, but it will be
Yeah.
a requirement that, hey, your government is, I would suspect they would probably reach out and say, urbanized area is expanded, your MS4 is going to have to resubmit their stormwater management program plan and account for the expanded area. So I suspect you probably will be getting that letter sometime in the summer. So,
Yeah. I just wanted to know a little bit about, I guess, where we were at. And as with some programs, they require a lot of reporting and paper shuffling, and you do all that to check the box, but you don't ever know where you stack up. I mean, are our rivers and streams too dirty, or are we managing this stuff right, or are we, again, at an 80 or a 90 or a 20? So
completing the annual report, we met all of our objectives in our stormwater management plan.
Yeah.
Those MCMs and BMPs.
Yeah.
We met them all.
Yeah.
We've reported everything we're supposed to report.
Yeah.
But I think to answer
Good.
your question, this doesn't assess plus or minus. This just says we're doing our job. And
Yeah.
like reason I said earlier is most municipalities have a watershed department, so they deal with it. But we reach out, the way the program is written, we report what we're already doing. We've got all these other entities. We've got everybody in Carroll County. We're all working together toward this, and it meets our permit. So
Yeah.
I would say the way to assess this is it would be a long-term goal. You don't just get a stream delisted in a year. It takes about 2 or 3 years. But I think that's where we should work toward, in my opinion. We should work toward delisting some of these 305B, 303D, supporting and non-supporting streams. That's where you're getting a bang for your buck. That's the ultimate goal.
Mr. Kent, with regards to your presentation today, you're basically just giving us this information, want us to continue to support you, but some of the things you talked about that you're reaching out to either other institutions or departments, that's something you're kind of heading up. So from a governing perspective, you're not technically asking for something from us today. I just want to make sure we're not 6 months down the road and you were quote unquote asking for something. Is that a fair statement?
This is not costing you a dime right
Okay.
now. This is just for information. I'm required, like I said, but I do education to the government, elected officials, and I do training to county employees. I've got a E&S program I'm training. I got 7 people that I'm training later this month, so that all kind of ties in. So this is just the education and outreach portion of our stormwater management plan. There is no decision I need. This is just me regurgitating information.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned your office does turbidity checks in the
Yes.
streams?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you checking for sediment load in the stream, or is that chemicals,
Just
solvents?
sediment, we just have a turbidity meter. We're doing turbidity checks. It's really kind of a check on, is there any problems anywhere here and there, but it's a way to also keep a situation awareness around. We have 30 of these locations. We are piggybacking on what the University of West Georgia used to do. Water quality, we kind of piggybacked on some of those same locations and just looked at various places around the county, strategically placed around the county. So we're just looking, just doing turbidity checks and based on the watershed basin and just maintaining, it helps us maintain situation awareness on what's bad and what's a muddy stream. Sometimes it's still in compliance, even though we hate to see after a rain like we had last night, we hate to see the muddy streams, but you go out and do a turbidity check and look at the watershed basin, they're actually all in compliance.
Yeah. Okay, but I guess my question is, if all of a sudden, if we have chemicals or some solvents or something starts showing up in the streams, how would we just have to wait for
Part of our stormwater management plan is we have to do dry weather screening of our outfalls.
Okay.
So anytime has to be within 48 hours of a non-rain event. So we go out to these outfalls, and if we see something, we're only looking at the outfalls in the urbanized area. So we go around and we look at these outfalls and we see something that is not water. You know, if it's foamy and those kind of things, we do have ability to contact a lab here in Carrollton, and they will come out and do checks, and we can do a little bit more scientific analysis of it, but not Carroll County. But we do have the means. We do call for that in our stormwater management plan. If we see something that's not right, we do have the means to contact local lab and have them take samples of it and see what the problem is. We've done that once. We had an illicit discharge, which was a failing septic system, and we've gone that route with it. But.
All right, thank you.
One last thing. We talked about this some at our retreat even, but you mentioned litter is a particular problem with a proper system. Do you know of any funding or resources available at the state level for litter control or litter problems and that kind of thing?
Grants to apply for?
Yeah.
I'm willing to look into it. I don't know any off the top of my head, but we only report on Public Works doing litter and the litter that gets picked up. What I do not report on is you have a lot with community service and the sheriff's office doing a lot of litter picked up, and that number doesn't get added to our numbers for the very reason is they want to track, this program wants to track volunteer and public involvement, public education, public involvement, volunteers. They don't construe community service and inmate labor as volunteer work. So we do not report on that, and that's the reason we do not report on that. So there's, if we, I just want to say that, but I'm willing to look into some programs if that's what you want. I'll get back to you on that if there are.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So Commissioners, we're now going to move over to reviewing the agenda for the April 12th special called meeting. And I'd like to remind us and kind of do a little education. The reason it's called a special called meeting is because we have canceled our regularly scheduled meeting because of spring break and so many of us out of town. So by law, we have to call it a special called meeting, where it makes it misleading that people think we're doing something special or something very unusual. So in this case, all we've done is just change the date from next week to Tuesday, April the 12th. So going over to that, I would like to amend the agenda because of 3 timely items. So number 1 is we're going to remove 10.1, which is the Carroll County Water Authority contract. From our work retreat, we realized we have a little bit more tweaking we'd like to do with that. So Stacy has been in contact with Matt Wyndham, and y'all are going to work on that and bring it back to us hopefully at the May meeting. That there again was about the North Carroll County area of providing water. So we're moving 10.1. We're going to add 10.5, which is the purchase of a loader for the solid waste. And we have Jacqueline Dost, our solid waste manager, here that will present the information. And then the next item we are adding, again, is under the business session, is 11.2, and it's a request for 9 positions to be funded by the ARPA judicial grant that we approved, I believe, last month with Judge Simpson having worked hard on getting that funds for us to help with our backlog. So we will move straight into what is now 10.2, the fire rescue light siren package for vehicles. And I'm going to call on our fire chief, Chuck Barnwell.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Good to see you guys. January this year, we were able to purchase 3 Ford F-150 response vehicles, 2 for battalion chiefs and 1 for chief of department. And these vehicles are bid on state bid, so they do not come equipped with lighting or emergency packages or lettering or anything like that. So in the past, what we've done is we've bought the trucks and we've ordered the parts that we needed, the lights, the sirens, the decals, all in-house. And what that does is it takes our shop people 40 hours per vehicle if they're not working on fire trucks. So it could last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long for one vehicle. So what I'm asking for is that we bid out or ask a local company to take care of this for us, that takes care of all of our lighting and emergency equipment. And we had them price it out at a cost of $88.97 per vehicle, but since that last price, that price has gone up to about, increased $249 a piece. So when we did it ourselves, it was in the area of $7,000 for the equipment only. So the difference between the two, we get all the labor, warranty from this other company, this local, and get them to be able to take care of it. And anything that goes wrong with any equipment that they put on our vehicles, it gets taken care of. And one is that they do that on a regular basis. Our people are not lighting or siren experts. They know how to do mechanical work and they can do some of the simple things, but they're not installers, and this local company is. So the total cost of the equipment needed for the 3 vehicles is $28,788.
Question.
Yeah.
So I see here your written information about Metropolitan Communications. Is it, do we want to get prices from a couple other entities or no? Okay.
We did. Had a company out of Florida. They were all over the map with the equipment, and it wasn't the equipment we asked for. And there was another local company in the state, and they were higher. Yeah, they were higher. And then, of course, we did our bid as well in-house. I had them do that in January, and the difference was about $1,800, I think, a little over $1,000
Okay.
per vehicle, if we do it with this local company and have them warranty the work and everything else.
So Chief, in summary, what I'm hearing you say is typically we all know that Public Works does a lot of stuff for all of our departments, and while they're doing a good job, and some of these individuals technically work for you under your budget, even though they're stationed at Public Works, you're basically evaluating that the amount of time it would take them to spend to put this in, or have to stop in the middle of, you know, something else being damaged that they have to make a priority. You're looking at the aspect of the labor cost, if you will, for being tied up in this, plus they're not technically lighting professionals, so you feel like those resources are just better utilized on this to sub it out.
That's correct, yes.
Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda? Okay, we'll go to, thank you, Chuck. We'll go to 10.3, Fairfield Plantation Fire Rescue and Equipment Donation. This is Commissioner Chance.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. A little bit of history. We know that we have a very good working relationship with Fairfield Plantation that's in District 2 with their POA management group there. We have typically, in times past, tried to help out Fairfield where we could with regards to their fire department. We have a mutual/automatic aid agreement with them where they are servicing their residents, but our constituents as well. Also with that mutual/automatic aid agreement, they have the ability to come outside of their gates and assist other individuals that are outside of the perimeter of Fairfield as well. One thing that we believe very strongly about, obviously this board, is public safety. They've got some needs, and one of the needs in speaking with their management and some of their board members is they were looking to upgrade some of their radios. And so I want to thank EMA Director Tim Pageant and also Admin and Tech Support Mr. Klotfelter, who initially helped me look into this, obviously with Chief Barnwell as well, to try to look and see what would the cost structure be of us trying to assist in some manner. One thing I want to talk about as well is if we had to serve the residents inside there with the amount of calls that they are servicing Fairfield is with med calls, it would be a tremendous strain on Carroll County Fire Rescue. So while we would be helping the POA management, we're also helping ourselves in that manner because of just how many calls that they're servicing. Also want to thank our legal counsel, Ms. Blackman, who came up essentially with a contract that is kind of mirrored some of the ones that we've done in the past with other equipment that we have given to Fairfield in partnership. In this agreement, it is like the QRV that we recently assisted in the last couple of years, also with a used fire truck as well. And essentially what that says is we are deeding the equipment to them with the understanding that if it ever ceased to be utilized for intended purposes, the equipment would come back to Carroll County. So for any constituents that may say, hey, you're buying this and simply giving it and they could just sell it tomorrow, that is not the case. We would have a contract that protects Carroll County's investment, that it would revert back to us if it did not, if it ceased to be used for those intended purposes. So I think it's really a good partnership that we have with Fairfield. It's a way to try to show their constituents who pay full county millage rate tax. We do not roll back any of their millage rate. There are state laws that are in place, as we've talked about before. For instance, we're not allowed to go in and pave their roads, even though they pay a full millage rate, but we are able to provide other services, such as through this mutual aid agreement. So it's a really good partnership. And with that, I would like for Chief Barnwell, and I want to thank him for his leadership and also working with Fairfield's fire chief, would like for him to say a couple of words, I guess, about the equipment that we're proposing to purchase and how it might benefit them.
Sure. The radio equipment that we're going to purchase for them is the exact same radios that we just took possession of 2 weeks ago. It's the new Motorola's, the fireproof, or not fireproof, but the fire-rated radios that are built for firefighters. And one of the best things about it is that we are going to program their radios exactly like ours, with all the channels and the different banks that they have inside the radios, so that all of them, they'll have the same safety alert, emergency alert systems, and everything like that that we have, and that way it'll be seamless.
The radios with the equipment and the warranties is $29,850.15.
Do y'all have any questions for Commissioner Chance?
I guess, I'm sure you've looked into this, Commissioner, but just a question. As you say, we recently purchased a bunch of radios for our county, and I guess it isn't possible that some of those older ones could be used. I don't know how that works at all.
No, sir.
No, okay.
Those radios are over 10 to 15 years old, and they're not good.
Okay.
And one thing that I would add too, and Chief Barnwell, we want to go into this, we have some firefighters that work for Carroll County, and they also work for other municipalities or counties or even Fairfield Plantation. And so to me, one of the upgrades is, yes, it's nice to have something that's the latest, but we have employees that work in tandem, that work for Carroll County for a shift, and they may work for Fairfield for another shift. So being able to have the same updated equipment, that there's almost not a learning curve, if you will. I mean, little things like that matter, and I think it's part of the partnership that we have between the two fire rescues.
Correct. And just being able to be interchangeable like that is just, it's a bonus.
Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yes.
Great, thank you. 10.4, the budget amendment. I'm going to call on Alicia Searcy, our finance director.
I'm proposing a budget amendment that would increase the revenue of the general fund by $3,023,600 and would also increase the appropriations of the general fund by $3,023,600. It would also transfer $12,500 from the county's contingency to the commission office publishing and advertising, and it would transfer funds within the department in the E911 fund. It would also increase the revenue in the solid waste fund for $226,000 and increase the solid waste fund appropriations for $226,000. Part of this funding that we're asking for was actually committed last year for some different projects that we're starting to expend money on this year. The biggest two of which, one is the magistrate court roof and the other is the jail barrier system. The magistrate roof project is complete. There is a wall project in addition to that that is currently in progress. The jail barrier system is in progress and probably about 10% finished, maybe 15% finished, but they're working on that pretty quickly. Another part of the funding would come from the increase in sales tax that we've seen. We're looking to, our sales tax probably going to be up about 10% this year. And then we've already gotten our insurance premium tax, and it was up about $197,000. Building permits are going to be up about $300,000, and we've got some GEMA grant money of $169,000 that was not in the budget. Some federal grant money of $11,000, some state grant money of $47,000. Revenue in Mooresbridge Park of $173,000, and then we're going to transfer about $80,000 out of the ARPA fund to help offset some of these expenditures. Some of the expenditures, like vehicle repair and maintenance and oil and gas, are because of price increases and things that we didn't foresee coming when we went into the budget last year. And then we have a fair amount of capital type items. We talked a few months ago about the HVAC over at the courthouse. Right now we've got a temporary unit running, and we're going to need about $100,000 to replace 2 drive motors over there. We're also wanting to improve our email system. Is running on a platform that's no longer supported by Microsoft, and we have a lot of security vulnerability there, so we're wanting to go ahead and upgrade to Office 365 and upgrade some hardware equipment there. The Sheriff's Department has asked for some body-worn cameras, and then they received simulator grant money and heat grant money for some equipment that has been purchased this year, and we just need to adjust the budget to show for that. The Correctional Institute has some major issues with their HVAC system, and water heaters not working correctly, and we need to get repairs or replacements done there. We want to buy new uniforms for all our fire personnel. We have been renting those in the past, and we would like to go back and purchase uniforms and then have an annual replacement on those uniforms. And we also repaired some turnout gear for them and want to buy about 150 sections of attack hose and also put tough books in all of the fire apparatus so that they'll have access to the new CAD system. And replace some switches at the headquarters. And then we've got a new vehicle for the animal shelter with the kennel attachment that goes with that. And then we would like to build a new dog run out at the kennel with some money that we received from Petco through a grant. We've got 3 skid steers, 2 for Public Works and 1 for Parks, and then a sweeper for Public Works to help with their paving. We've got a new copier for Public Works and for the fire department. We need some additional funding to replace some bridges at Oak Mountain Park on the walkway out there. Those bridges are getting some age on them and the wood's deteriorating, and we need to get that replaced. The rec department needs to redo some concession stands and get some new equipment there. And the Ag Center has a divider curtain that's got some age on it that needs replacing, and some new speakers out in the barn area where you can hear what's going on. And then part of this amendment would cover the radios that Commissioner Chance has proposed for Fairfield and a nav gas truck for the airport. And it would also cover the loader for solid waste that we discussed earlier.
I'd just like to say for the record that a lot of times, I guess, our constituents may not know that the conversations that take place behind the scenes, but at our work session, we went over all of these in detail for quite a while. So I think most, if not all, the questions got answered there. So if we don't have a lot of questions today, constituents, it's because this has already been covered. I did want to ask, that truck for the airport, how did that end up, and do we want any more information on that?
I'll go back to the chairman on that, but I think she's prepared to ask them for more information.
Okay, good.
I'd also like to make a comment that we spent an extensive amount of time looking at the budget amendment at the retreat, as Commissioner Reynolds alluded to. I'm sure there's always something out there someone wishes we could fund or do, but I do think it's a very good cross-section of a lot of departments, a lot of different improvements, and I think, I feel very good about the budget amendment. The other thing that I want to point out as well is, while we have done very well with sales tax, we've done very well with our finance director and her budgeting skill set. I also don't want constituents to see that we're at 90% revenue and we're at 60% expenditures. Everything that you touch is affected by gas. So yes, you think about filling up at the pump, or you think about oil in general, you think, okay, well gosh, it's doubled in some instances, but everything from shipping to parts to uniforms, we don't buy employee meals per se, but in our daily lives, going out to eat is a lot more expensive. So we've been able to accomplish a lot, in my opinion, from this cross-section of things, but also keep in mind, even though the county is doing very well, I don't want people to think there's such a bridge gap of excessive revenue, as I would call it. There's plenty of areas that we're having to spend what we're expecting that revenue to be, because inflation has just simply gone through the roof. And again, it's because fuel is up, and fuel touches everything.
That's exactly right. And one thing we don't talk about, we talk about the general fund expenses a lot, but we don't talk about our LMIG. And we've seen significant increases in the cost of asphalt, concrete, culvert pipes. All of that stuff is significantly more than it was a year ago, and a year ago it was more than it was the year before that. I mean, every year we're seeing incremental cost in that, and that's not something that's really reflected here. But and we've still got other areas that we could do improvements with, but we tried to focus on the ones that were most needed, and look at every department. The chairman was adamant about making sure that every department got something that they needed in this. So,
yeah, I'd like to second what Commissioner Chance just mentioned, in that we continue to be frugal, and not only gas, but also parts. I mean, have gone up a lot, and we use a lot of parts. And I know there have been some comments, maybe in the newspaper or whatever, about, oh, you got, $34 million in excess, let's give that back to the taxpayers. We will continue to be frugal, and I like the way we approach the budget. We are going to be starting budget talks again soon, and we'll see if a rollback is possible. I am on the side of property tax, property owners and property tax, keeping that as low as possible. So we'll continue to do that. Rest assured that we're not on some spending spree. So I just wanted to assure folks out there, and I think we're operating frugally, and we just need to address some of these areas where we have had increased costs.
And this was advertised in our legal organ.
Good.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was in the Times-Georgian on Tuesday.
It was advertised, so. Any more questions, or are y'all good to put this on a consent agenda?
Yes.
Except for that thing about the airport.
It's
Thing.
not on here.
Oh, okay, good.
It's not on here.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is on
Oh,
here.
it is, I'm sorry.
It is.
I thought it was just
Okay.
under airport.
So so we'll take that, so the budget amendment is good minus the,
Airport.
right, and I'll bring that back at the May meeting or the June budget
So-
talk.
So I'll
Okay.
reduce the county
mistake.
development line by the amount of that truck.
Yes, you're correct. I'm sorry, I guess in my mind, I knew we were taking it off yesterday because I had other questions, so my mistake.
Okay, Alicia,
So-
would you say that again? You're going to do what?
All right, on page 3 of that amendment, under
Community development.
economic development,
Excuse me,
community
economic.
development, I'm going to reduce, the current budget's 140,000, we're asking for an increase of 155. I'm going to take out 125,000 out of that line item, so the increase there will be 30,000.
Right, the airport falls under economic development line, doesn't have its own separate one, so. So yes, I will bring that back for a vote at a separate meeting.
Okay.
So thank you for that correction. Okay, so it's good to put on consent agenda minus the request from West Georgia Regional Airport because we want more information, and I have that list of items that you would like.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay, great. Thank y'all very much. Okay, now the item I added was 10.4, excuse me, now 10.5 is a loader for solid waste, and we have Jacqueline Dost here, solid waste manager, to present. I believe you have a handout also too, because there again, this was a timely based on prices going up, so I did not want to wait till the May meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners, for listening to our requests. I have with me today Philip Martin from Yancey Caterpillar as well to answer any questions that you have. I am asking the board to consider the purchase of a Caterpillar Cat Model 926 waste hauler for the solid waste facility. I did receive 3 quotes from Caterpillar dealers, Yancey Cat, our Atlanta dealer that we normally deal with, as well as one from Tennessee and Alabama. And as I said, I am requesting that you make that purchase from our Atlanta dealer. Included in that price is a extended warranty. I do want you to know that we also considered a preventative maintenance agreement, and after speaking with Charles Pope, Danny Yates, and Jeremy Yates as well regarding some service issues, we felt that it was not in the county's best interest to proceed with the preventative maintenance agreement, since we have the ability to do some of the regular service in-house through Public Works.
I do have some questions for the gentleman representing. Looking at the quotes here, they're ranging from 225 to 567. Now, I'm not expecting you to be a representative for the other quotes, but generally when you have a big disparity between what those numbers are, do you have any idea of why you think those numbers would be so much significantly higher from the other dealers?
Well, I would echo what you mentioned. I can't speak on behalf of the other dealers. However, it would be my estimation that it was likely due to the fact that they are not on the Georgia State contract. That would
Okay.
be my best guess, sir.
Okay. And as far as the warranty information, can you give me an idea? I mean, we hope we obviously don't have any major breakdowns in the equipment, but that's a very busy station where this particular piece of equipment is going to be utilized. Can you give me an idea about your service department, what your typical turnaround times are? If you have an instance where something's going to take a long time to be repaired, do you have a used piece of equipment that you're able to loan us? Can you walk me through what that warranty process would look like, generically speaking?
Yes, sir. Well, just as a representative of Yancey Brothers, we're one of the nation's oldest cat dealers. We represent the entire state of Georgia, north, south, east, and west. We have 17 locations around the state. One of the location nearest you and that would provide the service to you all here in Carroll County would be in Austell, Georgia. So the time frame in which for travel is not that significant. Within the Yancey Brothers organization, we've got 450 service technicians, which includes both in-house technicians as well as field technicians. We've got a wonderful relationship with the Public Works Department. We have not only myself as a dedicated sales representative for Yancey Brothers, we also have a dedicated sales representative who handles nothing but parts and service. And that relationship's been long established with Charles and his department. So in regards to an example of downtime, if I may, we make it a habit to ensure that customers stay up and running at all times if possible. One thing that I would, not here to make a recommendation, but one thing that I can suggest is that many of our customers do decide to take part in the preventative maintenance agreement, simply because it allows us to be there to do the preventative maintenance on the piece of equipment as scheduled per the operating manual, owner's and operating manual. In addition to that, it allows our CAT certified technician to lay eyes on that tractor and help see potentially around the corner to avoid costly and timely downtime. That's been removed from the agenda, and I respect that. I would say, though, with the level of technical support that we have and the product support after the sale of the piece of equipment, Carroll County has always been a top priority for us. We understand that trash doesn't stop coming just because the tractor's down. Unfortunately, tractors do break from time to time, and they do need service from time to time. It's my understanding that there are other support pieces of equipment, not only within the county's ownership, but also within our own fleet, whether it be from the rental department or it could potentially be a piece of equipment that is considered in our used equipment fleet. So as you can understand or imagine, the extraordinary pressures on availability of equipment right now, I'd be remiss to make some certainty or guarantee as such, but we would obviously make every effort possible to ensure that you're up and running, whether it's obviously through the Public Works Department or one of our own. We make every effort possible to do so. If it's something that we see that repair or that service is going to be something that's going to be an extended time frame.
And what did the extended warranty cover, or the general years or hours of, how does that work?
Right. So the warranty, as quoted, is a 3-year, 5,000. Well, I'm sorry, I don't think that's true. Is it? It's 5-year, 2,500 hours. The warranty.
The extended warranty, I think it was 3 years and 36.
So I'll speak to the term and the hours in a moment. But so what the warranty does include in terms of the particulars of the warranty, if you will, is all components associated with the powertrain, all components.
Yeah, it's showing 60 months and 6,000 hours.
Yes. Okay. I apologize for that. But it does include all components associated with the powertrain. All components associated with the hydraulics, and anything that is associated with technology on board of that loader. So when we say technology, that's a real broad sort of 30,000-foot view. More specifically, it's anything wiring, harnesses, sensors, and computer systems, which are now all a part of our not only daily lives as it's related to equipment, but automobiles and many other things.
Thank you, Ms. Doss, for looking into the extended warranty. You know, I like to look at those if we can afford them or have them included. I think that's good. And I'm assuming if Mr. Pope and his administrative team have looked at the preventative maintenance and feel that we're more than able to, you know, handle that in-house, then I have no questions, because I know they've been doing this a long time, and they would recommend that if they thought that we needed it. So I'm good with this. Thank you.
I got just a couple for Joyce. So, not anything against Caterpillar, but why only Caterpillar? Why not other equipment manufacturers considered?
So this is specifically a waste hauler, so it is designed to handle the almost 400 tons of trash a day that we push through our transfer station. As well, in terms of service, those are the vehicles that our Public Works Department are used to servicing, and they have shown that they are able to withstand the volume of trash that we put through, and that's why Caterpillar is our preferred dealer.
Okay. So that sounds just about convincing, but so there isn't another type of equipment that would have been cheaper, in your opinion, that we could get that would be a waste hauler kind of thing? I just don't want to get in trouble after this meeting for saying, hey, you didn't consider XYZ company and they're located right here and we could have got it for $40,000 cheaper. So.
Over the past year, that's the reason we've tried to stay with Caterpillar. The last 6 months, we've had a lot of problems with our equipment down there. And the parts on these Caterpillar tractors are interchangeable. We brought several of them in the past 2 months actually, and changed out cylinders, had to change out buckets. And if you get a John Deere or Komatsu or some other type of equipment, all that don't interchange. Mm-hmm. So that's the key to having the same product, is to bring them in, swap them out, keep them moving.
Okay. The equipment that this will be replacing was Caterpillar then?
Yes.
Oh,
We in the past 26 years or so, we've replaced a loader every 4 years. Then that loader's pushed down 2 times, so it's actually 12 years old before it's actually pushed out the door.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Good. Okay.
Well, Charles, you just answered 2 of my questions. This is one of those large articulated loaders. Is that what we're looking at?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And just, if I may, Mr. Fuller, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that as Mr. Pope was just articulating about the way that we rotate these pieces of equipment through my department and then back over to what we consider the graveyard at Public Works. So our 12-year-old loader, the one that will get pushed down, will become a parts source for the other 2 vehicles. So that's why, again, that consistency of brand is important.
Okay, my next question is this, and I know we already tend to do this. Let's say we buy this new loader and Caterpillar has an excellent product, but let's suppose we have a catastrophic failure right down the road. Are we going to be a loader short, or are we going to keep one of the old loaders at the transfer station?
We still use all the old loaders that's been pushed out of solid waste.
Okay.
We have not junked none of them or resold them or anything. They're still on our yard. They're usable, but they ain't something you want to run 8 hours a day for a week.
Okay, and I come out of naval aviation, and that preventative maintenance program is key. That's what kept them flying, and I'm sure the preventative maintenance program, and Charles, I know you guys do a good job of that. That preventative maintenance program is key on this type of equipment because of the heavy use. So,
Well, we'll do the preventive maintenance because we go down and fuel them up and grease them and do the
Oh,
things like
yeah,
that.
I know, I understand that. I
Yeah,
know
so
you
we
guys
just
do.
figured we could save that $7,000 in-house on that particular item.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you.
I'll also say, you get what you pay for and name brand stuff. You know, we've continued this same type of program with the fire department, with our fire vehicles there. We talked just today, was visiting about one of the agenda items, talked about even how the windshields are interchangeable from years down the road. And so I feel that Carroll County has a successful track record. I mean, yes, to Commissioner Reynolds' point, we want to make sure we're bidding and looking and we're not getting stuck in a groove, but we also have a track record of success of where we have big, heavy pieces of equipment, and we've stuck with the same brand. We've had the parts. You know, I visited the transfer station last week, and that place is hopping. I mean, we all know the volume of trash from all over Carroll County is drastically improving, or not improving, but is increasing. And so we've got to have equipment that's going to work for us as well. And sometimes you get that through name brand alone.
That's correct. Thank you, Commissioner.
Any further questions?
One more quick one, Chairman, thank you. Joyce, I just wondered, and we can talk trash later, but as far as just the fees that we are collecting for what's brought to this facility, are we in line with, again, in kind of a benchmarking idea, are we charging enough for?
I think that's something that we'll be looking at in the next few weeks, but I mean,
Yeah.
we are fine this year. We'll see what happens in the next budget year, but we are still at this point making money every month.
Okay. Thank you.
With increased fuel costs and labor costs
Yeah.
and everything else, I mean, you know, and our volume is up since I started 6 months ago. I mean, you know, I can definitely already see a volume increase, and I anticipate that is, as our county grows, which of course we want it to, the level of trash that we move through the transfer station every month also increases.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Commissioners, are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you very much. We'll move into the business session. 11.1, we're going to call Brian Kent back up for a street light special tax district. We've done several of these already, so.
Madam Chair, thank you. This is a streetlight special tax district. We've seen them. The unique thing about this one is this is a phase 3 of Indian Lake. We've already seen Indian Lake phase 2. You've seen other phases. This is phase 3, which is going to be 5 additional lots. There are no lights being added to this. This is just you said check in the box. This is a check in the box before we get to the final plat. They've got to do some right-of-way construction, some demolition, and some rework, and they've got to extend some utilities, some sewer mains, water mains for this particular development. But once they do that, we'll be at final plat and ready to create lots and for signatures. But this is a bit of an admin to keep this in line with the other 3 phases. These lots will be part of Indian Lake, and they will be added to the special tax district with your approval.
Mr. Ken, I see from the document, we had discussed this on the last 2 or 3 that had come before, looking at the actual cost. Looks like y'all are recommending to increase from the 40 flat rate up to 57. Is that?
I wrote that in there because based on your question, and last October I dug into it, made utility costs, and there's been increased utility costs, and that $57 number is where we are at right now. A little history, I think I've said this before. 2003, this program has been in place since 2003. Have not seen any kind of increase. We've been doing a $40 flat rate collected through property taxes, and with utility costs increased, I made those phone calls and basically did the calculations on historic calculations, and I came to the $57 number as we are right now.
And I believe that number is still lower prior to inflation in some of our neighboring counties as well. I believe some of them were at $60, if I remember correctly. So that
The
number.
last time I had a conversation with Douglas County or heard that their water authority is, WSA is actually the ones that collect this. They do a very similar program. They were at 60. They could be more by now, but last I heard, they were at 60, yes.
Yeah. So thank you for checking into that. I appreciate it, and making sure that number is more accurate with, reflecting everything we're dealing with today with rising costs.
But we are at 40. We're going to continue to do 40, but there could be a decision at some point in the future how y'all choose to act. But
Any further questions? Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda? Great. All right, now we'll go to what I added, 11.2, non-positions for the court system to be paid for by the ARPA judicial grant. I'm going to call on our finance director, Alicia Searcy.
Judge Simpson had come before you with the approval to apply for a judicial grant to work on the backlog of violent criminal cases that we have in our Superior Court system. And he attained that grant, and as part of that application, he applied for 9 positions for Carroll County. And so what we will do, I would like to ask for your approval for the additional heads at this point, and then we will be able to develop those job descriptions and get those people put in place, and they will be employed by Carroll County for the duration of the grant. And once the grant is finished, then these positions will probably go away. If we see that we need one of these positions or maybe more to help continue to move cases through our court system, then we would come back to you and ask that we retain those positions, and also ask for the funding to do so. But at this time, we feel like these positions will conclude at the end of the grant period. What we're asking for is 1 court legal assistant, 1 court program manager, 2 court program assistants, which are interns in part-time positions, 1 deputy sheriff position, and that one may or may not be filled. We're asking for it because it's in the grant, and the sheriff will provide that coverage that the judge has asked for. Since we're short on help at the sheriff's office, I'm not sure that we'll fill this position, but we'll move on from there. We've got 2 jury assistants, which are interns. Those are both part-time positions, a jury coordinator, and a grant accountant, which is part-time. And that position would work within the finance department and help me. Right now, I'm personally providing those services for the circuit. So this is a circuit-wide grant. These positions are particular to Carroll County, and then that grant accountant would work with the other counties in the circuit with the positions that they've been granted.
And just for clarification, this is simply phase 2, if you will, of something that we've already approved to allow Judge Simpson to do. So even though you went through all those positions, we already knew this previously. You're just basically now formally asking for the heads that we're trying to bring them on, correct?
That is correct. All of these are funded through this ARPA grant.
And also discussed yesterday at the retreat, so thank you.
Any further questions? Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda? Okay, great. So quick recap for Tuesday night. We have 10.2, 10.1 has been removed. 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, 10.5, which is the fire rescue light and siren package. It's a donation to Fairfield Plantation for some fire rescue equipment. The budget amendment that was advertised in the Times-Georgian on Tuesday, and for a loader for the solid waste. Also is 11.1, which is the streetlight special tax district, and then 11.2, which was added, the 9 positions for the court system. That's what I showed to be consent. Is that correct?
That's what I've
Yes,
got.
ma'am.
And again, clarification on the budget amendment, the request for funding from the West Georgia Regional Airport has been removed till I get further documentation from them that you all requested, and hopefully we'll have that on the May meeting. We're all good with that? Okay, Christie, do you have all that? Wonderful. Okay, at this time, we'll adjourn then. Thank you.